Hey everyone, Nick here and welcome to Tech Square. So, Apple may be thinking of bringing a touchscreen MacBook. On June 22nd, Apple kicked off its annual Worldwide Developers Conference. Despite being an online event without anyone present in person, there were some pretty big announcements. Some you may have been expecting and others might surprise you. Now, I won't bore you with all the new announcements that have been made on the WWDC. Rather, our topic for today is something that has not been announced but could become a reality in the future. Will Apple bring a touchscreen MacBook? So, without further ado, let's get into it. Apple announced the macOS 11, the Big Sur, at WWDC 2020. For so long, we had macOS 10.x.x, and the Big Sur is the most significant change since macOS 10 started. With Big Sur, Apple has introduced a complete design overhaul of the user interface. The windows and menus are more transparent and way-rounded than before. There are new color palettes and way more variation in textures. The dock is redesigned and is streamlined with new icons that are more uniform in size. In the macOS Big Sur, Apple has also added a new control center where you can find all the controls in a convenient place. You can also make certain adjustments easily. There's also a new notification center that shows all of your notifications in one place. You can also add new and redesigned widgets in the notification center. Anyways, there are so many design changes, UI changes, new features have been included in all of the software platforms of Apple devices. But that isn't our topic for today. Our topic for today is, will there be a touchscreen MacBook? Now, before going into the details of that question, you should also know that Apple has finally announced its transition to Apple's own ARM chip away from Intel. Apple also confirmed that the transition won't happen right away and it would take at least 2 years to complete the transition. In the meantime, Apple will still bring their MacBook devices with Intel-powered processors. So back to our topic, if you look at the design overhaul, then you'd certainly notice that the new design resembles so much with the iPadOS, which is basically iOS meant for bigger display devices. With rounded corners, uniform icon size, translucent windows and menus, the design is so close to the iPadOS. Meanwhile, the notification center and control center should also remind you of the iPadOS as if it is modeled after the iPad. From the design language to implementation of the feature would make you feel like it would work much better with touch than a mouse. macOS Big Sur also the beginning of the transition of Apple's desktop computers from Intel x86, x64 based processors to Apple's ARM-based processors referred to as Apple Silicon. On Macs with Apple Silicon, the macOS Big Sur will run iOS and iPadOS applications natively. Apple also claims that most of those apps will run unmodified without any issues, and that makes us think that Apple may bring a touch-enabled MacBook in the future. Because the iOS and iPadOS apps are made for touch-sensitive devices. With little tweaks, the UI can be made to work with a mouse as well, but the experience wouldn't be quite the same with a mouse. On the other hand, Apple has recently added mouse support to the iPadOS and added a trackpad on the iPad Pro keypad folio. However, the cursor doesn't exactly behave as it does on a Mac or Windows device. Whether Apple will bring more refinements to its mouse support in the iPadOS to match with Macs and Windows so that apps on iOS have better mouse support is yet to be seen. However, to me, it would make much more sense and easier to implement a multi-touch enabled Mac. It's not entirely new. In fact, we have been seeing touch-enabled Windows laptops for several years now. Microsoft has their entire device lineup set up to work in both touch mode and with a mouse as well. All of their devices are surrounded by the idea of 2-in-1 laptops. Even other OEMs are also bringing their own version of touch laptops. So the dream of a touch-enabled MacBook may just become a reality rather than being overlooked as a fantasy. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Hit thumbs up if you like the video and share it to your friends. Subscribe if you love our video and press the bell icon to get notified of our future video.